All right, so K-State has a 10th player transferring and leaving the program since the beginning of the season. It is Will Jones. Not great, but I think it is much more emblematic of a problem in college football and in the world right now in 2020 than it is anything specifically with the K-State football program. And I will give you some reasons why I think K-State's numbers are slightly higher than average right now across the country. Okay, I have that coming for you. But let me first outline this for you in general. Okay? Will Jones is somebody that had a lot of potential. I hate losing him for this year's team in 2020. I hate losing him for Saturday against Iowa State because Will Jones is the backup nickel. He's somebody that plays. He has a pick this year. He has 15 tackles. I hate losing him for the future. He's got a good recruiting pedigree, had some good offers, Ole Miss, Cal, TCU, coming out of high school. And he has trait that you can't teach, and that is world-class speed. All right? Don't like losing the potential of what Will Jones could have been. He may have been the starting nickel next year, which is a part of what makes some of this decision puzzling. A.J. Parker right now is the starting nickel. Will Jones is listed as the backup. A.J. could come back next year. I think A.J. will have a chance to go pro, so I think good chance Will Jones could have been your starting nickel next year. But here is the reality. If we're going to dissect players in Will Jones' position specifically, okay, these are guys that would go through the typical season and may have an issue with, hey, I'm not getting as much playing time as I want. Things aren't breaking the way that I want. This isn't going as quickly as I would typically want. But you wouldn't transfer. You'd stew about it, be upset, and not transfer because there are barriers and because you still have the typical perks of college life to fall back on and enjoy some other aspects of your life. Well, now in 2020, what these athletes are aware of is that, one, life for everybody kind of sucks right now. Life for everybody kind of sucks. And next year, you will likely be able to transfer one time in your career without any penalty. In January, that is supposed to become official. The reporting right now indicates it is a formality that it will become official in January. So there's less reason to stick it out right now. If you are somebody that's unhappy, you've been unhappy about playing time, maybe for Will Jones, it's that Wayne Jones has been splitting some snaps at backup nickel. If that's it, instead of sticking it out at least for the rest of the season and then evaluating because there's a barrier there's a hoop that you would have to jump through in waiting a year to be able to play at your next school, now you're saying, well, bleep this, I can just go do it right now. I don't have to wait out. If I'm mad at my coach for not playing me, I can just bail on the season right now and know that I can go somewhere without penalty next year. He's already got the highlight video up on social media, his highlights at K-State. So I think this is something that has been brewing for a little while. I think a lot of this is spelled out really well by, I'll give a shout out to Mountain Man 101 on KSO. It was actually, for the first time in a while, really just perusing the boards here during the break. He says, no one is living too happy of a life right now, especially college athletes in a bubble, so change is going to look enticing even if it's not for the best. That's some truth right there, okay? In this man's humble opinion, that cuts to the core of me. I tell you what, not just for college kids, man, that cuts to the core of me. Like, everybody's life isn't what exactly they would want it to be right now, so some change can look very enticing. And I think that is why you're seeing so much of this, a big part of why you're seeing so much of this in college athletics in general across the country. There are over 650 kids in the transfer portal right now. Derek Young says typically around this time of year it would be 150 to 200. We're talking 3 to 5 times as many players in the transfer portal already as a normal year. And I think it is those two things. The barrier, the hoop that you would have to jump through is going to be removed in all likelihood here in a couple of months. And things are worse in everybody's general situation right now. So from a starting point, you're worse. And then if you have some grievance that comes up after that, it feels like it sucks even more. So I would just say, I know the easy take here for a lot of people is to say, well, you know, these kids, they're just leaving too quick now, like the participation trophy thing. It's all about this generation. They just can't stick anything out. There's some truth to that, Okay, there is some truth to that, but I don't think it's fair to completely beat them over the head with that because, I mean, you can lump me, I guess, within the same generation. I don't know, but I'm 31. There are parts of my life here in 2020 that have been affected by everything that make me really feel like, man, this is not the life that I really want to be living right now. Change seems enticing. That goes for like everybody. I think everybody is feeling that same sort of stress and burnout. And think about then if you're a young kid who's in college that is supposed to be enjoying everything that's awesome about college life. And kids in this position aren't getting a chance to do that well now, having the typical grievances that would come along with whatever happens on the football field. So I think it's a pretty easy psyche to understand in general about why this is happening. And I would just say that is going to be systemic, and you're going to see it in college football throughout the rest of the year and probably for the upcoming years as everything tries to adjust to this new legislation and moving out of a pandemic.
All right, so I don't think it's so much COVID. And for the reason is if they go somewhere else, there's a chance they're still going to have to just sit around and wait in their dorm or their apartment to go to practice.
I mean, okay, yes, but like when you're upset and unhappy, like you want something to change. You want to feel like you have some level of control over something, and this is something you feel like you have a level of control over. Like I can change my circumstance and where I go. Again, back to that quote from Mountain Man, it may not be for the best, but in the moment, that's what feels like you can control. And so I would tell you I still think it is. I still think it is COVID motivated.
Well, if you notice with the list of guys that have either opted out / transfer portal with all 10, most of them are really young guys who have hardly even been at K-State a year, maybe two, including Will Jones, who's a redshirt freshman, so he's been here for a little while, and he's grown up a tad in the football program. Generational-wise, I think there is something to do with it there. And it would be textbook of human life to go after a younger generation. I'm not necessarily doing that, but I will say it's not uncommon for somebody these days to be impatient with the progress of where they think they should be. You have a recruiter telling you, you come to K-State, you have a great opportunity to be on the field right away, get some snaps, early playing time. That is a possibility. And how many times, John, do you get upset when the internet isn't working quick enough? Your laptop just isn't firing up 2 seconds quicker than it should be, so you get a little bit upset. I think we're all kind of there because we want it now. We're used to having it now, and we want to get there. I can easily see some of these guys being upset because they may have been told something like that, and they're not getting it because maybe they didn't realize you got to work a little bit harder for this.
Well, I think in general you make some valid points there. I don't believe this is a coaching staff that would tell somebody you're going to be able to play right away and that's really what this is. And by the way, Will Jones did play right, like he's played early on in his career. So I don't think in this specific instance it's fair to hold that against the coaching staff. But I do think that, yeah, in general, like, I mean, I feel it. I want everything right now. I want constant stimulation. And if I don't have it, then I get frustrated and I'm 31. You know, Will Jones is probably like 19. So, yeah, but I as far as K-State, as far as it relates to K-State, because I understand you saying, okay, John, fair point. I get it. I can understand why this is happening all across college football. But even if there are 650 kids in the transfer portal at this moment, divided by 130 FBS programs, that's around 5 per school. Why is K-State's number twice that? Why is K-State's number double that right now? Here's what I would tell you. I think K-State specific, you have to keep in mind that it is still year 2 of a new regime. And as such, there are 2 factors there. One, I think some of this, and I'm not going to give you specific names, but I think some of this, some of the 10, is a cleaning house kind of a deal. I think that's cleaning up some things and some attitudes that the coaching staff didn't want around. So it may have been more of a mutual parting of ways than just one kid up and leaving. I'm going to give you that. And I will also give you that, by my count, 7 of the 10 are from the 2019 recruiting class, which comes into play for programs like K-State that are still in their infancy with this coach. And that is, you had a rushed recruiting class put together in 2019. That was not one that Chris Klieman had a chance to get in and really learn as much about the kids as he would want to. Learn about the character of the kids, and you're just in scramble mode. You have numbers that you need to fill. You need to have somebody there to take the scholarship, and so you may be reaching more on skill level and character, which can lead to these scenarios popping up then over the next few years. So I think you may have seen some of that anyway, and it's just been accelerated by a pandemic and the upcoming legislation that will give these kids a one-time transfer. So that's really where I would point to K-State-centric reasons as to why the 10 would seem to be even outside of the margin for error if it's an average of 5 across the country. K-State is also, if we want to throw this in, I think schools in states like Kansas that don't have a bunch of homegrown talent, it's not just teaming with Division I football talent, you're going to naturally then have to pull in more out-of-state kids. So out-of-state kids would be more willing to transfer and leave right now and be in tougher situations because they're homesick. Echo Boydo, who's from Lawrence, said earlier this week, it was way easier on me to sit for 2 years without playing because home was just an hour away. I just had to drive down I-70 to Lawrence, and I'm back home. And so many of these players, Josh Youngblood's from Tampa, like Ronald Triplett was from Texas. Like, where's my list here? Tyrone Lewis, Louisiana. Jonathan Alexander, Texas. Matthew Pullum, Arizona. Thomas Grayson, Oklahoma. I guess that's not quite as bad. But a lot of these players, you see that being a factor that's thrown in there. So I guess I'm not trying to just excuse the whole thing away, but I don't think this is anything real indicative of the coaching staff. I will stick to that. I think it is indicative of what everybody is going through right now with the changing climate in our world and the changing climate in college football. Maybe that doesn't ease your mind as much as I think it should, but I hope that it eases your mind some.